Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to today's web seminar. My name is Mike Perkowski. I'm pleased to be the moderator for our program, Digital Banking That Feels Personal in the Age of AI. Before we go any further, I do want to take a moment to acknowledge and thank Glance for sponsoring today's program. We appreciate their support. Today, we're fortunate to have two speakers who are extremely knowledgeable about this topic and who are going to share some of their insights and some of their ideas and even recommendations on how organizations can get the most out of this technology. We're going to hear from Tom Martin, who's the CEO at Glance, and as well, we're also going to hear from Josh Johnson, Senior Director of Operations Strategy at SoFi. Gentlemen, we're glad that you could both join us. So let's get started. I want to bring up the first slide in a moment, but before we do, just a reminder that what we're trying to cover here today and some of the things that we're going to talk about is trying to get an answer to a very important question. In an era where empathy matters as much as efficiency, how can financial services humanize AI while still driving outcomes? That is really a big deal because a lot has been talked and written about the technology, but in the end, it all comes down to a lot of how people feel personally, how they feel emotionally about dealing with a financial institution. So let's get started here and the conversation focus a little bit about how AI is reshaping the experience. Tom, I want to start with you. So from your vantage point at Glance, how is AI reshaping digital banking experiences in ways that truly matter for the customer?
Yeah, thanks, Mike. We're seeing AI reshape digital banking in ways that really lets banks be both more efficient and more human. For customers, it really means less friction, removing a lot of that excess, being more relevant, being able to provide a stronger personal connection, ultimately, really improving the wellness and well being of all those folks. We're seeing AI not really as a replacement for human interaction, but really how do we amplify it? And what matters most to banking is trust, clarity, convenience. And I think we're starting to see AI deliver on that convenience factor. But when it really comes to trust, we're only seeing humans being able to deliver that. And so I think, when I think about like AI and some of the takeaways of what we want them to be able to do, those repetitive tasks, surfacing relevant information in real time, so that a banker can focus on more meaningful conversations. And I think when this is done right, I think a lot of people are trying to figure out and experiment on how to get it right. It results in really strengthening those human relationships that remain the heart of really any business.
That's a great point. It's interesting. There's so much that's been said and written about AI and in banking and financial services that you lose track of the fact that many banking and financial institutions are really still just getting started with some of the technology itself. Josh, when financial institutions think about introducing AI, what guiding principles should they keep in mind to ensure that those experiences feel both personal and not transactional at the same time?
SoFi is focused. When we look at what SoFi is focused on, when introducing AI into our servicing space, my role is to really look at, one, we want to make sure that we are differentiating ourselves against our competitors, to make sure that we have that. That the experience that one would expect when they contact a bank, right? We don't want to make it transactional. We want to make sure that, you know, they come in there, they're talking to a bot. One, we're transparent about it, that they understand that they're talking to a bot from the get-go. And that if they need to get to an agent, it's a very seamless experience to get to a human if needed. We are focused on, using AI to automate those really repetitive tasks that are prone to human error or take a lot of time to do. And we're really very selective on the use cases where we're applying AI to ensure that members feel that the safety and trust is there from a banking institution. When you're dealing with people's money, it's a very you want to be very sensitive to that, and make sure that your members feel very safe in their interaction with the bank.
Okay, great points. Tom, I want to come back to you. we have this optimal balance, right, between efficiency and empathy. How where is the line there between those two concepts, efficiency and empathy, and how can banks walk that line responsibly?
Yeah, I like what Josh had to say because I think that you cross that line when really efficiency comes at the expense of trust. Customers always value that sort of speed and convenience because humans are wired for the path of least resistance, but they don't want to feel just like they're another transaction. And I think the right approach, as Josh was saying, is like if you can get the routine, the repetitive, the predictive pieces handled by AI, and you free up that human advisor to deliver empathy where it matters most. You think about like major financial decisions, decisions that have a long lasting impact, like, hey, trying to make a decision on a mortgage, moments of vulnerability, changes in your family, losses, times of stress. You want to speak with another human being. And I think that line is a balancing line of really sort of managing the efficiency that builds confidence, empathy, builds loyalty. And I think banks are recognizing that they need both. They can't go with one versus the other. And it's that balance of like, what are the types of tasks that really we want to create efficiency because that's what humans expect. But the ones that really lead to needing more empathy, let's make sure we connect them with a human being without hiding them or making it too difficult to connect with a real person.
Right. And as robust as the algorithms have become, I don't think there are any algorithms yet that can really figure that out. Josh, can anything that you can add here too about this balance between efficiency and empathy?
Yeah, I mean, I think again, when you think about, uh, you know, from a banking institution, we want to make sure that folks feel they can voice their concerns. If they're having issues with their accounts, talking to a bot that's going to give generic responses, that's not the type of experience that we want to provide, right? We want to, as Tom mentioned, the speed factor is a key piece, especially with our member base. They expect it to be quick, seamless, and easy to do. And we provide a lot of that with our application and the services that we provide. But our approach is always going to be, we want to make sure that we're balancing that speed and efficiency against the overall experience and making sure that members don't feel like that we're trading one for the other.
Those are really good points. And one of the things that I think is important to keep in mind here is that we talk a lot about in business about trade-offs, and yet customers, consumers, and other businesses, if they're doing business with you, their expectation is they want it all, right? So, Josh, let's come back to you again. We're seeing this shift, right, where customers expect both speed and empathy. What should leaders in banks and financial institutions be thinking about in order to meet these expectations in high stakes moments like fraud, applications, or security issues?
Yeah, I think that it's all about the right governance of the AI that you're using, right? So having really good, um, uh, uh, you know, a robust governance on the models, the AI models that are being applied to your experiences is key, right? We want to make sure that we can flag when those high experiences or high risk moments come up, so we can get them to a human agent immediately, right? And not forcing the member to go through a bunch of hoops to get to a human being. I think that's key. And also, I think that making sure that before anything is deployed into production, we want to make sure that we have the right governance to make sure that that experience is producing the experience that we would expect, and that our members expect ultimately. And that's key piece. And that's one thing that we're working through is how do we have the right governance around the applications of the different AI solutions that we're bringing onto SoFi to make sure that nothing is falling through the cracks and that we don't have members going through these endless loops or having these really bad experiences, because we have something that's being automated to save a few dollars.
Okay, great. Tom, both you and Josh have talked about speed a couple of times here. Another embodiment of this is this notion of real-time engagement. Obviously, it plays a huge role in building trust between the brand and their customer. What are some practical ways technology can support that immediacy without overwhelming your customers?
Yeah, I think Josh talks about, hey, we want to actually put stuff in place and make sure that we're having the outcomes that we want. And we hear from our customers that real time engagement really builds trust, but it can't be intrusive or pushy. So I think of things like having some smart automation with that human handoff and being able to give customers control over some of those preferences so they don't feel like they're being locked into one channel, because
Mhm.
oftentimes when you really think about the world of omni-channel, customers today we know could start online, start on the website, shift to an app, then hop on a phone call, and wanting to be able to understand and recognize that, hey, this customer's already been here, we've captured this history, can allow us to prevent things like repetition and show that the company is really attentive, because once they get to that phone call, that agent or specialist is context aware. Josh talked about sort of that transparency of really letting customers know, is it, are they interacting with a bot or a real human if it's in a chat world, and making sure that they've got some of those elements that are available. I think when we think about real time collaboration, especially when they get connected with a banker or a specialist, is adding features like co-browser, screen share, or especially video, depending on the situation, that lets bankers guide customers through complex transactions, versus trying to do it through some other modality. And we know that when you're able to do those types of things, you're able to drive things like completion rates, or cross sell, upsell opportunities start to emerge, because many of our customers recognize that selling one product is great, but their ideal customer is someone who's probably bought 4 or 5 products, and it might take many months to get there. So recognizing that the human element can be an important part of getting a customer through those different stages, to become that ideal customer.
Okay, good points. All right, gentlemen, it's time to do a little crystal ball gazing now. And Josh, I'm going to start with you. So let's look out a few years from now. How do you expect customer expectations to continue evolving? And what should financial institutions do to prepare now for that?
Well, I think that customers are going to continue to expect more and more, speed, accuracy, and just overall ease of being able to transact with companies like SoFi. So providing them the technology, one, to self-serve. That's a key piece. We want members are going to expect to be able to do things themselves if they can do that, and I think that that will continue to be an increased need, and we're seeing that now. We want to enable our customers to self-serve and not have to actually reach out to SoFi, right? So that's first and foremost, and that will continue to be a focus. And I think that every company should really have that focus. How can I enable my members or customers to get what they need, whether that's through the website or through an application, and really limit the need to actually contact your contact center. And then the second part of that is when they do decide that they need to contact the contact center, making it really seamless to get what they need, whether that's again through self-service, through a chatbot to ask questions. And the chatbot world is really growing in terms of the use of LLMs, to make that experience more human-like, and that's going to continue to be a thing. When you think about chatting with a chatbot today, but a lot of folks get very uh, they get very frustrated knowing that it's a bot. It's a very generic response back and forth. Making that experience feel like a human experience, even though that they know they're talking to a bot, is going to be a key piece to enable that adoption in the future. I think that with the old chatbot experience, you have more folks that just want to get to an agent, right? So that's going to continue to evolve, and then ultimately, once they if they need to get to an agent, giving the agent all the tools necessary to help them, so we can focus on resolving that call the first time they contact you, and not requiring them to call back numerous times, right? So tools like Glance that allow them to troubleshoot in real time and see exactly what the member is seeing is a critical piece. And there's other tools that you want to enable your frontline teams with to make sure that they can help their member or customer out.
Very good. Thank you, Josh. Tom, anything you can add here?
Yeah, I'll just reiterate that I think the focus on building systems that are fast, predictive, transparent, and human centered is really something that is the need that customers are expecting. I think we like to talk about the best experience is one that sometimes the customer hardly even notices because it's just doing what they expect. It's sort of in the background of life, and so I think the other part is that working towards embedded financial partnerships. Who hasn't used Apple Pay or Venmo or Zelle or interacted with Stripe and recognizing that their money is something that they need for purchasing or living life and being able to have access to it within work streams that they're using to me is really important. But I see the future is one that's really a hybrid world where digital tools handle that routine instantly. Humans are accessible when they're needed for that sort of empathy and expertise. And that's going to be sort of the balance. So
Okay, great. So let's move to our next topic, and I'm glad that Josh had mentioned earlier the person on the other end. Okay, the agent, the person who's actually there to service the customer and to provide that empathy that's so important. Rethinking the agent's role in this process is obviously very important. Tom, let's start with you. We often talk a lot about the agent experience being inseparable from the customer experience. What kinds of tools and enablement make the biggest difference for agents handling complex digital interactions?
yeah, I think it's really great to reframe this because if your employees don't feel supported, the best journeys break down. And so if you have happy bankers, happy employees, they deliver great experiences for your customers. And I think this is where we're seeing a lot of AI powered agent assist solutions on the market, and I really see them kind of in a couple different categories. One that's helping the specialist in the moment during interaction with a customer, and the ones that are once the interaction is done. And when you're in the middle of an interaction, AI can really help with next best action, searching a knowledge base, pulling up relevant articles, maybe policy snippets, highlighting compliance flags, things like that. And then, of course, after the interaction, we've seen and heard a lot about just like, hey, it can pull together a call summary, take notes, post them into a CRM, categorize tickets. And the value of that is really about like, how do I take one of my most valuable and expensive assets, my people, and make sure that they're able to focus their energy around the people and being able to do what humans do best, deliver that sort of high empathetic interaction with people. So I see those to me are like the most important pieces that we're seeing is, when specialists have the right context and guidance and they're free from that drudgery because AI and other digital tools are just doing it for them, they are able to do their best work.
So a term that we throw around a lot, we hear a lot um, in customer service and customer experience is empowerment. In particular, when it comes to empowering teams, and Josh, I'd like to hear from you, what mindset should organizations adopt so that their agents see AI as an ally rather than as a threat, something that's going to take away or minimize their job?
Sure. Yeah, I think that that's something that we're working through now is that change management, right, with the adoption of these new tools and helping them understand what value it brings to them. And I think that that's a key piece with any AI tool that you're looking to deploy is helping your frontline teams help them understand how it makes their job easier, right? And what that means in terms of what they're being freed up to do down the road. And I think that with SoFi's growing so rapidly, helping our agents understand, hey, we're bringing on some of these new tools to help support you. We have a lot of different systems in place. That the agents, we always say the agents have the hardest job at SoFi, right? And our goal is to make that easier. And so it's I think that one, it's before you're deploying any new tool, is getting that initial buy-in, making sure that you're doing robust pilots, getting feedback, making sure the experience hits the mark, and that you're getting the benefit, and you can ultimately show that to your team that is using the tool before just throwing it out them. I think there's a lot of companies out there that are so eager to adopt AI that they get a tool on, they see the benefit and automating and providing additional efficiency, and they don't take the time to really go through that change management to get the adoption from their teams.
Right. Optimizing that is a lot different from implementing it. And
Right.
obviously, every financial institution wants to get the most out of their investment. Earlier, we talked about the striking that balance, okay, between speed and efficiency. I want to come back to striking a balance as it relates to the agent's role here. Um, Tom, let's start with you. What does an ideal balance look like between human expertise on one hand and AI driven automation on the other in these customer facing roles? Where is that balance?
Yeah, we've talked a lot about what each is going to be doing, and so I don't think that ideal balance is about drawing a hard line between humans or AI. It's really that level of orchestration. And um, uh, I love food, and I always think about things in terms of like a recipe. It's about getting the right ingredients, the proportions, and the process correct. And you know, that automation handles the scale and speed. Humans provide that depth and empathy, and so I think about where AI is the first line of efficiency, humans are the first line of empathy. And when you think about AI less as like, oh, it's going to do all these things, and AI is really a concierge. It's like not a replacement. It's there to assist the customer. And if a call or an interaction moves over to the specialist, it moves over to then assist the specialist. And so it's important to keep that human in the loop in those types of scenarios. And let's say automation is going to accelerate certain types of things, humans can still provide sort of that maybe sign off. And so back to the pieces of that, I think the sweet spot is, AI is providing speed, accuracy, and scale. Humans are providing that empathy and trust, and it's that recipe of getting them right, but recognizing that we're not trying to do all of one or all of the other. It's getting that journey figured out of like, where can I insert it here and start to tune it as your customers learn and change to give them the right experience and access to the business.
Great. Thank you, Tom. Josh, what can you add here?
I mean, yeah, I'll echo what Tom had mentioned or said. Honestly, I think that's you hit the nail on the head. Is as we're looking to enable AI for agents to help them, ultimately we're reducing the number of simple calls or chats that come into the contact center, which means that we're freeing them up for those really complex conversations that require that human touch and require that empathy. And I think that's finding that balance on where you draw the line, so you're not overextending into those really complex scenarios with AI that will ultimately drive down the member experience.
Okay, excellent. Um, I'd like to move now to the concept of outcomes. Obviously, everyone wants a positive outcome. Uh, the contact center wants a positive outcome. The client wants a positive outcome. But ultimately, the outcomes really must revolve around trust, a trustful relationship. So, Josh, let's start with you. If you were advising a financial services leader today, what outcomes should they focus on in order to prove that humanizing digital experiences is worth the investment?
I think that one of the metrics that we're always focused on is first contact resolution, right? So, am I able to get my resolution resolved the first time that I call in? When we think about the use of AI, are if our the AI that you're deploying is resulting in members having to reach out to you again, that's not an effective use of AI or a chatbot or whatever, however you want to apply that. And so when we think about um, you know what outcomes we're looking to drive, first contract resolution, member adoption, looking at that loyalty, that member loyalty, and are they adopting more products within the company. So things like CSAT, MPS that are listed here are definitely things that we look at to that are indicators on, are we driving the member experience that we hope to when they actually reach a member or one of our agents.
I want to talk for a minute about metrics. Numbers are obviously the yardstick that we use to determine whether we're succeeding in anything, and it's certainly true here. So, Tom, from a technology perspective, what metrics do you see move the most when experiences become more seamless and empathetic?
Sure. The A lot of different outcomes that we're seeing, but I guess one of the things that we recognize is that when technology is able to remove friction and enable empathy, we're seeing probably the most impact on a lot of the customer centric components that you see here on the slide: CSAT, NPS, but also CES. That sort of customer effort score, just making people's lives easier. It becomes a big indicator of loyalty. And the parts that I think Josh was talking about: FCR, first call resolution, average handle time, things like that. Sometimes, and I think we're talking internally about how there may be a need to start to track metrics a little bit differently from, like, how AI is going to impact it, because AI should, and we expect to, reduce average handle time, but it may increase for a complex discussion with a human, and that could be fine, because they're going to increase the resolution. They may sell something else, increase wallet share. And so the idea of really thinking about, uh, from a technology standpoint, we're really seeing the impact on, if you're able to reduce the friction, if you're able to give people this flow. I think the pieces around loyalty, lifetime value go up. And those are really, to me, the important aspects that a lot of banks are focused on, because they don't want a successful customer isn't one that just bought a checking and savings account. They want to get them into that next product: a credit card or a loan, car loan, mortgage, etc.
So, Tom, I'm glad you talked about loyalty in your previous answer, because it's particularly important and relevant as we talk to our next question. So, for each of you, and Tom, I want to start with you. What's one practical takeaway you can offer to institutions that are looking to strengthen loyalty and adoption through a more human digital engagement?
Yeah, thanks, Mike. I think I'm going to give you two, because one is designing for low effort and really thinking about the customer's journey and trying to make it as simple and frictionless as possible, is really, to me, the core driver of loyalty. And when you're able to do that, when you're able to take that uh, friction away, you can really drive customers to be like, hey, you know what? I'm going to do this again. It's easy. And then, as we think about AI, investing in AI as a concierge, as a co-pilot, that really lets it automate those repetitive features, but surfacing intelligence that really empowers humans. And I think getting that level of feedback to start there as a co-pilot, learn from how your customers are starting to interact, will allow you to then figure out what those next steps can be.
Thanks, Tom. Josh, what can you add to that?
Yeah, I know. I completely agree with Tom. Making sure that we're providing something that's low effort. I think that ensuring that something is very seamless for your members to adopt is a key piece, right? You don't want to make it complicated for your members to adopt, that digital experience that you're looking to deploy, whether you're looking to deploy a chatbot. Making sure that one, it is very easy and feels very natural to use, but then also to add on to Tom's point, gathering that feedback, having that feedback loop on what that experience is like for your members so you can iterate and improve the experience is a key piece. So looking at things like your NPS survey results, any feedback you can gather from other channels. We're adopting things, tools that analyze contacts to help get feedback from what that member experience is like, not just through the agent experience, but through our chatbot and through our IVR experience. So having a full view of your experience in each of your channels is a critical piece to making sure that you're adopting and you're deploying technology that supports that experience for your members.
Okay, great. That really covers a lot of key issues here. I do want to take some questions from the audience, though. We've got a number of really interesting ones queued up here, and this one I think it really sort of gets to the heart of what a lot of people are thinking about. And Tom, I'll start with you. Do you think customers will get more comfortable with or more resistant to AI agents?
Oh, this is a layup. You know, customers are on social media. They've shared information. They're probably using some type of AI tool potentially in their personal life. I think the adage of you're competing against your customer's last best experience is real. So customers are probably having experiences that they wish they could have with a bank. So to me, um, Josh and I both talked about the fact that it's like start small, but start. Make sure the feedback loop is quick and robust, so that you can continue to learn from your customers. But I think that's the whole point. Customers are ahead of where many institutions are, and the faster you start, but don't go big. Just start small and learn fast, and then continue to iterate is the key.
Okay, great answer. Josh, there's a question for you. The audience member wants to know, how can I convince my boss that up leveling our support reps is important?
When you say up leveling, what do you mean by that?
Increasing, improving, creating greater functionality and even greater empathy and outcomes.
Yeah, I think that, again, when we think about this kind of balance or dance between AI and humans, as we automate more with AI, it's going to require that our agents are able to handle more complex situations, right? So enabling them to handle those is going to be a key factor, and ensuring that you have the member experience that you're looking to have to differentiate yourself. So whether that's through supporting tools that the agent needs to have, or better training to help them handle those more complex situations is going to be a key piece as we continue to grow in AI.
Okay, excellent. That does conclude our program for today. I want to thank both Tom and Josh for sharing their ideas, their recommendations with you today. Once again, we want to acknowledge and thank Glance for sponsoring today's program. And last and not least, we want to thank all of you who attended today's program. We're glad you could take some time out of your busy day to learn more about this topic. And we hope that you'll join us for future web seminars brought to you by American Banker and its partners. So on behalf of our host, our sponsor, and our presenters, thank you all for joining us, ladies and gentlemen. We hope you have a great and safe day. Take care.